around the country, a lot of times they charge for the investigation and they put the money right back into the building. I'm from Wisconsin, and unfortunately in Wisconsin, or I guess maybe fortunately, there's not a whole lot of public investigation spots. So we don't really have that opportunity anyway. There's other states you go to and you're tripping over to pay for investigation spots, but that really doesn't seem to be the case in Wisconsin.
Okay, well, that's nice to know. I mean, like I said, they were telling me like how it could be, to like be in a prison for a night, the cost of it. Granted, even if the money went back in to help keep the building, keeping it from going into more despair, for an average ghost, like they said, ghost hunting group, it was expensive for them. It came out of their own pocket,
I guess, in my opinion, that would be, if they're willing to pay it, they really shouldn't be complaining about it. I mean, if they're going to pay the price to do the investigation, then they've made that choice.
Well, I'm sure.
I know that some of the places can really get expensive. I agree, and it just really comes down to what you want to do in the field.
Yeah, I guess if it's a place that I guess hundreds of ghost hunting groups want to go, ghost hunting on. I mean, somebody back there thinking, dollar bills. But I mean, there are so many places around this whole country that, is rich, for ghost hunting, and let alone, people, homes, like I had this one lady call me up a couple months ago and I had to refer her to a couple of groups. That's before we talked. She was having like her door slam, banging on her wall at night when she was sleeping, and just things moving around, in her kitchen, things like that. And it got to a point where she was almost went to live in a apartment or a motel because she couldn't take it anymore.
There are a lot of times that we'll deal with families that they've gotten to the point. We've been called in on a referral to follow other teams that have tried to help. And one I look back on in particular, the team before us told this little boy, a 9-year-old boy, that he had a demon inside of him, and that all of the issues in the home were his fault. So the family abandoned the home. They moved out because they thought that would bring them peace. Where if you truly had a demon inside you, which he didn't, there would be no escaping that activity just by leaving the home.
Well, that was really bad of him from the standpoint. You said a 9-year-old boy, and they were blaming it on him. I mean, you know how much emotional scarring it could do to a 9-year-old? I mean, he's going to feel guilty.
It really had. And we had gone into the home twice, and we got audio. We got like a 5-second clip of audio, and we played it for the mother, and she recognized it as her brother because there was a speech impediment. And thankfully, she did. We didn't experience anything bad in the home. There's one team in the area, and like I said earlier in the show, I'm not going to name who they are because it's just not how I do things. But that's their MO. They go into a home, they scream demon, and they never go back in. And we've been cleaning up after them for about 7 or 8 years now.
Now, do some of these... I was going to ask you, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's how I get questions here. Do some of these groups, do they charge the homeowners, or how does that work? I mean, do you do it pro bono, or do you charge, or just trying to help the people? How's it work?
Honestly, I've never charged a family for an investigation. I never will, for 2 reasons. One reason is this isn't an exact science. I can't promise you results. I can't promise you that we're going to fix things. And the second being, I don't think a family should have to pay us a bunch of money to feel comfortable in their own home. Now, if there's teams that are going to charge, then I have no control over that. I really don't. I don't agree with it. But some teams think that they're entitled to a payment, and like I said, for the reasons I said, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I never will. And I think it gives us more, what's the word I'm looking for here? I think we get more respect in the field because we don't. And the majority of the teams in this field do not charge for an investigation. And I know that by, just being in the field, knowing a lot of the teams, that most teams do not charge, and we're one of those. And I can never imagine a time when we will. I'd lose respect for myself if I did that. And I think we'd lose a little bit of integrity. And once you lose integrity in this field, you pretty much are done.
Yeah.
Integrity means a lot.
Well, it makes me sound like the people who are charging for it are not really into it to, try to help the person, number one. Number two is that they're trying to help themselves. And I would be very leery if I, some group came to me and says, hey, yes, we will go to your house and we will look for, and remove whatever it is or help remove what it is. But they want money for it. I would think that maybe they don't even know how to do it. I think they're just, I hate to say it, I think there's people out there that take advantage of the situation. And, as anything, not just ghost hunting.
I think in every walk of life, there's people that take advantage of others, and it's unfortunate. But, we mentioned earlier in the show, families looking for help and have gotten to that point where they're willing to let 4 or 5 strangers into their home in the middle of the night to look for activity. Those folks don't know any better. They don't know that teams are not supposed to charge. And, they may find, the first team they find may charge, I don't know, I'm just going to throw a number out there, but, $200. And they might think, well, if they can get rid of this, that's not so bad. And if they don't do research on who they're bringing into their home and other teams in the area, I don't think they're going to realize that there are teams out there that will do this for free. And that's the unfortunate thing. The paranormal field is a field, and it's probably like any other field or profession. And I hesitate to say profession because I'm not a professional ghost hunter. I don't even know what that is. But it seems like when you try to take a leadership role within the paranormal field, there's a lot of pushback. Folks that will say, well, don't tell me how I can do things. Don't tell me I can't charge. So leadership within the paranormal field is few and far between. And unfortunately, a lot of the folks that get into this field look to the folks that are on TV as the know-all, end-all. And in a lot of cases, that's not true. There's folks out there and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but there's folks out there that I know that have been doing this for 30, 35, 40 years and have never been on television once. And they have a vast knowledge of the paranormal. And those are the folks that I try to seek out and learn from. And I think any conversation that you have with somebody in the paranormal field, you can take something from that and learn and apply it to what you do and get better at what you do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what difference I can tell just by talking to you. Because like I said, this one guy and his wife or girlfriend that has a group, I cut him off the first 10 minutes. I let her talk for about a half an hour before I said, well, thank you for being on the show. It all stemmed around that they wanted to be on a cable channel. Not so much really going out and looking for, ghosts or entities in somebody's house. It was the whole conversation kept going back, we want to get picked up by a cable channel. And I asked some questions and it'd go back in again. Well, we sure like to get picked up on a cable channel. What scared me is when I found out they only investigated a couple houses and spent maybe an hour or two at the very most in a person's house. And, and to invade somebody's house for an hour or two is probably bad enough. But to go there with the wrong intentions, and again, it seemed like it was more of a social thing with them, a hookup to meet with their friends and just, I don't know, it was rather strange. But it wasn't just them. It's been a lot of groups like that have approached me that they're nothing more than a social group, like on Facebook or something, and they call themselves, ghost hunters. It's like I had a guy again who messaged me for over a month telling me he was an expert at Bigfoot hunter. And, I finally figured, well, maybe I'll bring this guy on because he said he's been doing it for like 20 years. Well, I finally said, okay, where have you actually gone out looking for Bigfoot? And he goes, well, I have never been out. I said, okay, well, how do you do your research? Well, I read books on Bigfoot. I said, you've never been out ever looking for a Bigfoot? No, I just read about it. Well, you're not a Bigfoot hunter. So he never ended up on the show. So, I mean, there's like anything, it's people out there that shouldn't be doing what they're doing. That's simple as that.
Agreed. And I will make you this promise. I will never go out and be a Bigfoot hunter.
Well, I don't care if you believe me or not, but a friend of mine who was a medical doctor, and I have talked about this on my show numerous times because Bigfoot, is really a hot topic. We were up in the Canadian Rockies up to a World War II internment camp out in the middle of nowhere. Even getting to where the closest point in to walk the 2 miles in from this old logging road, we hiked in there. Again, we're American citizens. We're in Canada. We don't have no guns. We're out in the middle of the woods. We weren't even smart enough to carry bear spray. That's tell you how dumb we were. And there actually was cases around people getting mauled by bears and half eaten by bears up there. We didn't know that. And my friend who's the doctor said, "Hey, Gary, look over there. Look at that bear." And I raised my camera up, which I had a good-sized telephoto on it. And then that's when I realized that wasn't a bear. It was a Bigfoot. Was I looking for a Bigfoot? No. Has it ever happened again? No, because I never went out after in the woods. I have 8 kids. I've never gone camping after that. And we used to go camping every weekend. No way. But, there is so many freaky things out in the paranormal. It's so, hard to explain. Now, I got another thing I want to ask you. My daughter's boyfriend was killed when I lived in Tacoma in the alley by our house, right next to my house. He was shot in the head. And for a few days, I'd be, like in bed, and I kind of got a spirit coming up to my bed. And it's a long story, and I don't want to get into it. I'm the one that actually called the cops on him, and he ended up getting killed. But he kept coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I don't want you feeling, bad, the type of strange talk." And it got to a point where I ended up having, he was a Muckleshoot Indian tribe member. I ended up calling up the tribe. They sent their medicine woman. They didn't have a medicine man, and they cleansed our house. And then all of a sudden it was gone. His spirit never came back. But have you ever had anything eerie like that happen with people?
One in particular, and I'll get into it real quick. The reason I said I'll never do a Bigfoot hunt is a lot of what you just mentioned is, from what I've understood, a lot of these things are like 8 feet tall, and I don't want to go into the woods and find this, because then what do you do? It's more of a fear thing that this thing is so much bigger than me, and why do I want to find something that can kick my butt?
Well, can I tell you this? I hope you can run fast. I was younger then. I'm 66 now. I mean, I was so scared, I'll be honest with you, and I said this before, I peed myself. I mean, I was in Vietnam, and the last part of Vietnam, I should say, and I seen a lot of things, and, I thought I was a tough person, especially back in 2000 yet. And, when we ran across this thing and we realized it wasn't a bear, I got scared. And when it discovered us, probably from the reflection of the lens, it made the loudest scream I've ever heard in my life. And it echoed, because this, again, part of the buildings were somewhat still there, or parts of it were there, but it was built on the side of a mountainside, part of it, the camp, where it was an old silver mine. And when it screamed, it echoed like you wouldn't believe. That scared me bad enough where we started taking off, but the thing chased us. And when you run across something like that, you just don't ever want to run across it again, I tell you. And then when you get these people tell you that Bigfoot, or, I get these people saying that, Bigfoot are warm and fuzzy and caring creatures. Well,